Welcome, everyone, to the Brand Fortress HQ podcast. And on this Tactics Tuesday, we're going to be discussing Amazon Prime Day. This is something that comes around each year where there's a lot of hype, usually a couple months beforehand, and you really want to make sure that you are prepared for it. But today, what we want to do is take that discussion even at a higher level when we talk about first principles, when we talk about strategies and overall goals for Prime Day, and quite frankly, whether you should be participating in Prime Day at all for your brand or even specific products. So with that said, I'm actually going to turn it over to you, Mike. And if you can kind of share what your experiences have been with your brand in Prime Day over the last few years.
Yeah, so I think just to clarify, our attempts to utilize Prime Day actually really is only 1 year. We tried last year. And in the past, so to give some context for anybody who doesn't listen to the podcast regularly or hasn't been a privy to an episode where I said what I sell and what we do. So we sell pool cleaning tools, and we sell at a really significant price premium over the rest of our category because of our unlimited free replacement warranty. But the issue there is that it's not a consumable. It's not a consumable in the traditional sense, and it's also not a consumable in the, say, disposable kind of consumable item that we see oftentimes in this category, because most of the other products that are selling in this category are very disposable, 1 or 2 seasons, and then somebody's coming back to buy another one from somebody at least. Our products are not that. Not only, are they going to last longer, but of course I have to replace them, and it's at my expense. So I have traditionally stayed away from Prime Day, because I didn't really want to discount our products because we are selling in that premium price point, and we're not really competing on price. So that's one factor. But then also I just wasn't really sure whether we would gain much out of it. I didn't know if I could really offer enough of a discount to make it worth it, because I have to make sure that my margin is high enough so that I can actually fulfill on the warranty. I mean, unlimited free replacement means I'm going to replace quite a few of them. Now, we've talked before, as far as warranties go, most people don't take advantage of them, and there's all sorts of reasons why it won't cost you nearly as much as you think, but it's still an expense, and you have to account for it. So that being said, last year, I decided to take a swing at it. I thought, well, there's a lot of traffic rolling through, a lot of individuals who might not pay attention to our brand. If I could bring them in the door with the first product, maybe we could push some sales down the line on the back end. Maybe it's worth it. So we did some relatively significant discounting on a number of our products last year for Prime Day. And what I can say essentially is the only thing that the result was we robbed Peter to pay Paul, because what happened was we saw a massive spike in sales, of course, because of the discounts. And then following Prime Day, we saw a massive decline in sales over what we would normally have seen. And then things picked back up and leveled off. But if you were to look at our overall sales over, say, like a 3-week window, Prime Day did nothing for our overall sales numbers. And the only thing that it did was cost me money, because I gave such a significant discount on those products. And maybe, we'll bring them in to purchase later on and purchase other products. But part of me believes that there's a much lower chance that those individuals who came in purchasing our product at that discount are likely to purchase our other products at full price. They're probably going to be the customers that just kind of sit around waiting for us to offer another significant discount through our email list or whatever. And we can't afford to sell every product to this person at that, significant discount, because then there's just no room to supply on the warranties. So for us, it was really, I feel, a bad decision. Now, maybe it was a good decision because we probably should try it and see, you don't ever know. You make a lot of assumptions, but you don't know. Now we know. Sales, over that 3-week period basically were flatlined to what they normally would have been, because we had the peak and then we had the trough and then we were back to normal. So I don't feel like it was a win for us. I would say If you're not a consumable product that people are going to come back for, like a protein powder or something like that, I mean, those kind of situations I can absolutely see. If you've got tremendous reviews and they're going to come back for your product because everybody loves your product, then of course take advantage of Prime Day. I think it's a great opportunity. But a product like ours, I don't think it's good if we're not a spontaneous, it's not a spontaneous purchase, kind of a product. And so you don't get as much of a bump. Whereas, on Prime Day for products that I think are more spontaneous in nature, that are, less, it's not tools and things like that, maybe you've got a better shot. It didn't work for us.
I think one of the biggest things to take away from that is, like, for me, when I sold, we did utilize Prime Day the very first year that we sold. We launched our barbecue accessories brand in 2020, and we did Prime Day because back then I just thought that's what all Amazon sellers do. Amazon was promoting it. Amazon was like, get your inventory in. So I took the bait. And so for me, I didn't really have a reason or a goal for Prime Day, except Amazon told me to do it. And, so the next year I flipped that script a little bit, and I was like, okay, so if I'm going to decide to participate in Prime Day, what is my goal with this decision? And for me, we had just come back in stock from being out for a couple of months. So, it was, and so in the barbecue accessory space, we have Memorial Day, and then we have Father's Day, and then we have July 4th, and then Prime Day. So those 4 holidays, whether they're actual national holidays or man-made, Amazon-made holidays, there's a span of about 4 holidays right there that we did a lot of promoting. And so for me, then my goal with Prime Day was I want to increase our organic rank. I want to get our organic rank back to where it was. Let's generate a whole bunch of sales velocity. And it worked. I felt a whole lot better about what the results of it were, because I could certainly see that the goal that I set out to, it helped. Now, after that, the challenge that I have in my space is inundated with Chinese manufacturers selling direct, and it's a race to the bottom in a lot of those cases. And similar to what Mike said, is I'm not playing that game with them. So once Prime Day is over and all of those, that's usually the end of those kind of 4 holidays, they dropped their price. They kept their price at where it was. I, like, similar to Mike, am at the high end of pretty much all the categories that I sell in, and my organic rank dropped again. It went back to where it was. So, like, yes, I had the second year, I feel like I had a better mindset going into Prime Day because I knew what my goal was with it. But I a lot of the same things that Mike said is what I dealt with. I don't want to play the race to the bottom game. It certainly increased sales velocity, which increased organic rank. But what did I gain overall? And it just, to me, wasn't worth it for the same reasons that it was for Mike.
And I think that's a great point, what you bring up there, Matt, which is having a game plan when you go in, not just, hey, we're doing Prime Day because Amazon says we should do Prime Day. Because, of course, they want you to do Prime Day because it's a win all the way around for Amazon. When you look at it, customers come there on Prime Day. Like you said, it's an artificial holiday in order to find discounts. And let's be honest, a lot of the people that are coming for Prime Day, they're looking for big discounts. They are bargain shoppers, which, based on like Mike, your brand is not targeted towards bargain shoppers. So it's
Right.
not even necessarily your demographic, or at
Nope.
least your psychographic, I should say. And then the other thing is that I think to take away from this is looking at your product mix. So if you have a product that is a consumable where there's more reorder, or you have a really deep catalog,
Yeah.
doing something like Prime Day to bring people into your brand can make a lot of sense, because once they buy one product, then they know what your brand is. Hopefully they have a good experience. Hopefully, you already have a system in place for, uh, the after purchase funnel and those types of things. And that can make Prime Day a win over the long run for your brand if you have kind of the right strategy going in and you know what that's going to look like. But if you just do Prime Day to say, hey, we're going to do Prime Day, and then you're celebrating afterwards because you see your top line revenue went up during Prime Day, then you're probably not moving in the right direction. In fact, I mean, one of the episodes that we had not too long ago with Ritu Java, one of the things that she mentioned was for brands that are not using one of those strategies or don't have a specific purpose for driving a lot of visibility during Prime Day, she actually, for the counts that she manages for a lot of them, what she mentioned was that she actually turns the ads off, which to me makes a lot of sense because, especially during Prime Day week, what we see both on the organic and the paid side is that the amount of clicks go up and the conversion rate drops dramatically.
Right.
A couple weeks beforehand, because people are basically just looking because they're kind of getting ready and looking at those products, but they're not buying because they want to see what the discount's going to be for Prime Day. And then during Prime Day, because a lot of them are bargain shoppers, they're tire kickers. It's something that they only want to buy if they're getting a good deal. So you have to be kind of careful, especially on the ad side, that you're not spending a whole bunch of money getting visibility for people that are going to convert at half of what your regular traffic would convert outside of Prime Day.
Well, and getting back to that idea of whether you're even reaching your target market, because you're looking at those bargain shoppers. So for our brand, when there's a number of potential issues with that, because when you sell to an individual who's only going to buy your product if it is on this, kind of significant discount, then in order to sell them other products in your line, you've already primed them psychologically, let's say, Prime Day, for discounts, right? So that's what they're going to be looking for going down the road. So even if you've got a good back end post-purchase process in place and you're getting them on your list and things like that, you're still not likely to make as much on that customer as you would on the customer that's willing to pay full price, for your premium product. And not only that, I think there's also a better than average chance with those individuals that if you're so let's talk numbers. So our pool pole is like $200, and they can buy a $30 pool pole off of Amazon that essentially does the same job, right? It's a telescoping pole, 16 feet long, so okay, $30, $40 maybe, right? It's not nearly as good, doesn't have the lifetime warranty, the locking mechanism is not as good, all of these things, right? But it is still a telescoping pool pole. So my problem is, let's say I sell a $200 pole and I give them a really good discount. Maybe it's, I don't know, let's say 30%. So, that's $60. So I sold it for $140. Well, they still paid $100 more for my pole than that less expensive pole in that category. And this person, because of the type of buyer that they are, they probably were like, oh, it's a really great deal, I should go ahead and do it. But after the fact, those type buyers are going to have, many of them are going to have buyer's remorse. They're going to be like, boy, you know what, I should have just bought that $40 pole. I really didn't need to do this. You're going to get more returns out of that. And from our perspective, you're going to get more complaints. We have often said selling to that customer who's willing to pay $200 for a pool pole because they know it's the absolute best and that you're going to take care of them means you get a better buyer. You have a better customer. They're not the complainers. They're the ones who are willing to solve problems when they call you or they contact you. Most of the time, they're pretty reasonable. Those people on that lower end of the spectrum that are only going to buy with that massive discount, they tend not to be as good a customer. You have more problems with them. They're not problem solvers. They're typically complainers.
Yeah, I think, and it just kind of boils down to, like what we were talking about before, is making sure you know what your objective is for Prime Day. And I think not only at a brand level, but you can also look at it from a product level, because you may have a product that is a great tripwire product, and really what you're buying for Prime Day is you're buying visibility. So if you've got a product that fits well into that category, then you can get a ton of visibility, and that is great.
Or even if you don't, come out with a product. Like if you're going to use Prime Day, if you want it for the volume, if you want it for that opportunity, then come out with a product that is specifically designed for that purpose, that is that tripwire product that you can afford to break even or maybe even lose money on to get people on your list, and you get this massive volume uptick so that you can put a massive number of people on your list, and then maybe you can funnel them in. That's one of those things where, so like for us, if we were going to use Prime Day, an opportunity for that would be, say, pool water test strips, let's say. Now, I don't like that option as much because you really want to nail those because people want to get their measurements right. But let's say you could easily find a relatively inexpensive test strip from a manufacturer. You could roll that out, and as long as the test strips are decent, you can get them for a few bucks, cost a few bucks to get them to the customer. So now you got $6 in. Maybe you sell it for $5 or $6 on Prime Day, right? You're going to lose a little money on that. But the nice thing about that is even my customer that'll pay $200 for, a pool pole, test strips are test strips to some degree. And so you could probably get away with that and you still bring a lot of people into your customer list that may actually be part of your target market. Whereas if you were selling something else, like if you're heavily discounting in order to get it, then maybe you're getting the wrong customer. But I think there's a balance there that if you get the right tripwire product, you can still get that right customer on your list and sell them those premium products down the road.
Yeah, that's a good point. I also wonder, so what I'm thinking about too, and I'm wondering, it would take some coordination, although there might be a couple of different ways you can do it, because there's always two sides of the equation. The easy side of the equation is offering a discount and just lowering your price.
Yep.
The side of the equation that in the long run is usually more valuable for your brand and quite frankly for your customers as well is saying, how could I add value instead of lowering my price? And so I think it'd be interesting if you could come up with a way to have a Prime Day exclusive, freebie product or add-on or something that you only offered during Prime Day.
Would people see it though? Like, I mean, in theory, I kind of like the idea, but generally speaking, on Prime Day, the only way you're really getting highlighted, at least by Amazon, is if you're offering a discount. And so in that sense, wouldn't your offer kind of get drowned out by everybody else?
So you would run into, yeah, and yes and no. So you get additional visibility during Prime Day if you're running a officially sanctioned by Amazon Prime Day exclusive. There's definitely
Right.
a lot of visibility you get with that. However, you could still get something similar to that if you were strategic about ad placement. So, just as an example, let's say you did a sponsor brand top of search ad on, again, you wouldn't want to do this for all your products and you wouldn't want to do it for all keywords, but maybe keywords that had high buyer intent that you knew like your prime customer was looking for. That then it could make sense in order to do that as a headline, either sponsor brand, static image, or even better if you did it as a video.
In theory, that makes a lot of sense, but I think Amazon made a big shift in how and what products are visible during Prime Day. I think it was 2021 or 22. I didn't participate in Prime Day. I didn't do any Prime exclusive deals or anything like that. I did do a discount, but I was actually more aggressive with advertising just to take advantage of the traffic. I mean, there's a lot more traffic on the platform, and it worked to a degree where, yes, I did get sales. My velocity did increase from, a couple of weeks prior to that. But then the next year we tried something very similar and actually close to what you were talking about, John, where we added something. We added an additional product, a kind of a real cheap product to one of our top selling SKUs. And we did the same strategy where we didn't do any actual Prime discounts. We did a coupon, but the amount of impressions that we got in 2023 compared to 2022 was significantly less. And I think it was about a week or two later, Destiny, who was also another guest, did an analysis on LinkedIn, and she actually proved that the products that weren't involved in Prime Day in terms of an actual Prime discount, the amount of visibility that they got was significantly less than it was the previous year. So I don't think that Amazon is showing the products as prominently anymore, no matter how much you're spending, if you aren't participating in Prime Day. I think there was a pretty big shift about a year or two ago, and Destiny proved it with actual data. So I think it's different now. I think Amazon, you're either participating or you're not going to get as much visibility as you would otherwise.
Interesting. I'm just trying to think about any other ways that you could take advantage of all that additional visibility without having, officially sanctioned Prime Day deal offer.
I wonder. So it strikes me that marketing on, as opposed to maybe necessarily top of search, picking some products or brands in your category, that are going to be aggressive for Prime Day. And so their product listing is going to get a lot of traffic. And so you target their listing, with say sponsored display, like everything you can throw at that competitor's listing with this, additional offer, like you're suggesting, John, where maybe there's an extra freebie in there or there's something else that you're advertising with it. And you make it very prominent on those competitors' listings that are going to be aggressive. Maybe you could get more volume there. It strikes me that, Matt, I think you're probably right in terms of the general, volume of traffic that you're going to be able to pull off a Prime Day if you're not participating. But there might be strategies like that where maybe you could get away with it. The other option that you could try that maybe sits somewhat outside of that would be DSP, and whether DSP would give you access to more ad volume that maybe isn't being affected, like Amazon's not throttling it anyway because you're not participating. I don't know. We haven't tried it, but I like the idea, John. I think it's basically just coming and doing some testing to see, can you actually get enough volume out of it to make it worth the effort,
Right.
to rework your listing and all the things that you might have to do in order to make it, do it right.
And I think you'd have to be really smart about how you do your competitor targeting on that, because you'd want to make sure that, if you're a premium brand, for example, and you're going after a competitor that maybe has a lot of visibility, but they're already, cheaper than what you are.
Right.
And now with a Prime deal discount, maybe their product now is 50% less. The reality of it is the people that are clicking on there are probably not going to be interested in buying something at twice the price.
Yeah.
So you'd have to be pretty strategic about the competitors that you targeted. The other thing I wonder is if there's a way that you could use virtual bundles. So that way, from a logistics perspective, maybe what you do is, you create a larger bundle and then offer a dollar off amount that, sounds impressive. Because let's say you put together, a few $100 bundle and you offer, $20, $30, $40 off of that kind of is in the same theme, if you will, of Prime Day, but you're not losing quite as much on the margin because your dollar amount is so much higher on that on your order value.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an option. Virtual bundles are interesting. There's a lot of benefits that to be had. Unfortunately, the one benefit that doesn't translate, is you're not saving anything on your fulfillment costs. You still get mailed. It brings up a question for me, though. I'm curious what you guys have experienced, because it's something that I'm thinking about recently. Is that virtual bundles, now they show up differently than, say, a variation, but a lot of listings that you go to will have individual products, and then they will also have bundled products on that listing as a variation. I know Amazon sometimes doesn't like that, depending on the category and whatnot, but a lot of people get away with it. But the reason I bring that up is I like our virtual bundles, and we do sell a fair number of them, and it's a good way to sell multiple products, but fulfillment kills us. With Amazon's fees being what they are, and you basically get charged the same fulfillment on each of those individual products as you would if you sold them separately. I'm starting to look at the 3PLs that we're working with. We can actually get, for a bundle like that, we can actually get a much better shipping rate for shipping that bundle through a 3PL than we can through Amazon, because they'll give us a reduced rate for packaging multiple products in the same box, whereas Amazon's not giving us any discount at all. So I'm starting to wonder about creating bundle variations on our listings and having them FBM instead of FBA. And then the Prime product that's on there that gets all the traffic, is the one that's showing up in the listings, and that one stays FBA. But then once somebody's on the listing, then they see the bundle. And, we could save significantly shipping it through the 3PL versus shipping it as a virtual bundle through Amazon.
I think that's a really good point and a really good idea. A couple of things that come to my mind on that is that, first of all, I think that virtual bundles could be a great way to test to see how much potential there is for bundling some of those products together. So, because it's so easy to do. And then if you see a good amount of traction with that bundle, that you just take that same offer and you essentially translate it, like you said, into its own variation, and you move that over to FBM instead. The other thing is kind of going back to this Prime Day of, what we started out with is I think also keep in mind that I think there's a lot of opportunity that's not being used with virtual bundles now having their own title and their own images, of
Right.
using them for more of, holiday promotions and those types of things, where it's limited time offer, or a special use case to where you can bundle those things together and give people an excuse to buy a couple of products at the same time.
I like it as a gift option. I mean, virtual bundles are really not that difficult to create. And I think there's something to be said for having, well, as we started this whole podcast, in terms of looking at Prime Day. And if you're going to do it, then have a purpose behind it. What is the actual goal, right? And with virtual bundles, not that you can't create virtual bundles that don't technically have an independent goal, except to just sell more products and that, frequently bought together or things like that. I mean, there's ways to do that. And you don't have to have a lot of strategy behind it. But having a strategy behind it and deciding what to put together into that bundle and turning it into more of a gift offer, for Father's Day or Mother's Day or birthdays or, whatever that is, I think actually could be a really good strategy because, of course, obviously it can have its own image. The main image can be different. As you said, the title, the bullets, the whole 9 yards. So you could essentially create an entire listing that really revolves around more so the gifting of those items or something like that, rather than the independent items themselves. And that's a very different way to market, that bundle of products, which might be useful to a lot of sellers.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be done there. So as we, probably a good place to wrap on Prime Day as we think about it. Any action items that kind of stick out to either one of you guys for our listeners to think about as we kind of prepare for Prime Day in the next couple of months?
I think the biggest one that we've touched on a couple of times is deciding on what your goal is. If you're going to participate, what is your goal with it? And having a clear and defined plan and being able to measure the success of the goal. Did I achieve my goal or did I not achieve my goal, so that you can make an educated decision? Don't just participate in Prime Day because Amazon tells you to. Figure out what your goal is. If there is any goals that meet what Prime Day would help you with. So that's my biggest tip, is just actually make a decision based on what will happen if you do participate, as opposed to just jumping in with both feet like Amazon wants you to.
Yeah, I really like that. I think, to be honest, I like the second part of that, in the sense that having a goal is great, but if the goal that you've set, you haven't determined what KPIs you can actually measure to determine whether you achieved it or not, then the goal's not helpful. So not only deciding, what is the thing that I think we're going to achieve or that we hope to achieve by utilizing Prime Day, but how would we measure whether we actually achieved it or not, or at least the degree to which we achieved it, so that if we come back around to this next year, we can make the decision of, okay, we didn't quite reach our goal, but we were in the right direction. The directionality was right. And so what could we change to get us closer to the goal, this time around? But again, if you don't have those measurements, you can't do anything with that. And I think, ultimately the biggest thing is, whatever that goal is, be careful that the goal that you're setting is not just, sometimes exposure can be good. I don't want to say that don't have exposure be the only goal that you're shooting for. Maybe for your brand, maybe exposure is exactly what you need. And so therefore, maybe it is the right goal. But ultimately, I think for most brands, especially right now, with fees being as high as they are, with profit margins being squeezed as much as they have been, I think that you need to take stock of what products can you actually afford to discount. Because if you're going to take advantage of Prime Day, most likely it's going to be with some sort of a discount. Maybe you could go with a strategy like what we were talking about with adding something to your product. But if you really want to get the best bang, for your buck out of Prime Day, it's probably going to be some sort of a discount offer. So the question is, what can you afford to discount? And then how much can you sell in the back end of that? What is the lifetime value of that customer likely going to be, whether it's because of consumables, whether it's because you have a massive product line that's all centered around the same, product niche. And so therefore, once you bring that target customer in, you can sell all those products to them. Make sure that there's a lot of selling availability on the back end of that. if you're going to be doing the discounting, because that lifetime value comes into play. And if you don't know what it is, you're probably screwing yourself.
Yeah, and I think the piece that I would put out there is, I think coming back to what Ritu is talking about as far as turning off your ads, is I know it seems counterintuitive, but especially for those products where they're great complementary products and there's some good profit margin there, but maybe you're not moving a ton of units, they're not your hero products. I think there's probably a lot to be saved in those couple of days during Prime by, and again, you don't have to turn off all your ads. Me personally, thinking about this a little bit, I'd probably at least leave my brand defense on just to make sure that I didn't get eaten alive by my competitors. But I
Hmm.
definitely would turn off, for complementary products, if you're running, some of the video ads, some of the other different placements out there, this would be a good time to probably turn those off, since your conversion rate's going to be lower during Prime Day anyway. And
Yeah.
so that way you can kind of save some of those ad dollars and then put them to play, a couple weeks afterwards when everybody's kind of over their Prime Day hangover and into their regular buying cycle again.
Well, that's a really good point, John, is that there's a lot of sellers who blow a ton of cash on Prime Day, not only in terms of advertisements, but also in terms of the discounts that they offered. And so then on the back side of that, especially sellers that don't really know what they're doing, let's say, they may be in a position where once Prime Day is over with, they're like, oh crap, like we can't afford, like I don't have any money, right? And so that's the time when you actually have an opportunity to really kind of expand your advertising and do some things, because realistically, your competition probably isn't going to be. They're going to be pulling back.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I think that's a great place to wrap for today. And I think that we've given, listeners out there a few different angles to approach the strategy, as opposed to just, pumping up the volume as high as you can for Prime Day. So hopefully that gives them some options as they look at what their strategy should be for their brand for Prime Day.